Hello, I'm Mike, and welcome to this bit of my channel where I talk about the physics degree, my experience with it, questions that I've asked myself, questions that maybe other people have asked me, and just have a chat about that. This time I want to go through a few things that I wish I'd told myself before I started my degree. I mean, I have done sort of similar things to this before. There may be some overlap between this and sort of dumb advice for students or the financial advice one that I've done, but I wanted to put this all in one place. This is the things that I wish I'd told myself. So first of all, don't be nervous about taking courses perceived as easy. Usually what happens is you're a physicist, you're very interested in science and mathematics, and there'll be this perception that there's these courses that are mathematically different, and if you're a real physicist, if you're the real deal, you take those courses. Now, okay, fair enough, that sort of attitude does come across sometimes, but it's a physics degree. At the end of the day, your employer is, unless you're really going into like theoretical physics as a job, your employer is unlikely to care about that, and if you're self-employed, you don't care about that. What's important is taking the courses that help you learn physics, that get you into the areas of physics you're passionate about, that work for you. And so don't be ashamed of saying, oh, I'm taking this course and it seems a few people have said it might be a bit of a DOS course. Yeah, ignore them. It's the same physics degree. The other thing that I'd say about that, as well as don't be nervous about taking easy courses, don't be nervous about not taking courses that are deemed mathematically difficult if you aren't necessarily interested in that. I mean, I made a very dumb mistake in one of my years of taking a heavily mathematical course called Gravitation, which was about sort of the backdrop of, well, effectively what it really was the start of general relativity. I shouldn't have took that course. I should have took something more practically related, because I mean, I knew it myself. My desire was to go into something more practical. I ended up getting a PhD in the field of instrumentation because that's the side of it I prefer, and I made the silly mistake of sort of wanting to push myself to take that course. It's like, I want to prove I can do this, and looking back, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I want to prove I could do that? I could have had a much nicer and much easier time if I hadn't. So that's one thing. Don't be afraid to take courses even if other people are saying, oh, they're a bit of a DOS, and don't be afraid to turn down a course if you think it's going to be something that's mathematically challenging. I mean, if you want to do that, fine. If you're not particularly interested in that, there's no shame in saying, actually, I'm more interested in doing this other course. Other advice, look for courses outside of the direct physics courses. You will be allowed to take what are called external options. So maybe like there are a few courses that are technically run by the maths department or the economics department, the earth sciences department, that you are allowed to take as a physicist. And some of them are really interesting. It was only really in my third year that I started looking at them, and I should have looked a lot earlier. And the one that I did that was interesting was a course from the earth sciences lot about about planets and about what makes a planet, all about sort of things like why you have rocky planets and gas giants and all that, and also things like life on other planets, the potential for life on other planets, and the sort of the earth science behind what makes that possible. How do you estimate the temperature of a planet, all that sort of stuff. Loads of really interesting stuff, and I wish I'd looked for that sort of thing earlier, because it was a fascinating sort of different course. The other bits that I'd advise, check your course advice bloody thoroughly. Again, this is usually your university will give out, like when you're choosing courses, You'll have the titles, but you'll also have a lot of information about those courses. You'll have like sort of a brief bit of writing about that course, like the bullet points of what will be taught, and really make sure you go through that with a fine-tooth comb. Because I mean, I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's interesting, tried to pick one, but there's no need to not take plenty of time of it. And I think the thing that I did wrong was I look at it just before I chose which course to take. I mean, especially for courses in first semester, you've got a whole summer. You've got a whole summer before that year starts. You might change your mind later, but you've got a long time to have a look at what's available, what you're doing. You don't need to leave it till late. So that's another thing that I think I'd say to myself. Check your course advice thoroughly and check it over the summer when you've got plenty of time. Last two bits of advice: learn to code a bit. I've said that before. I've said that a lot of times before. It is really useful to be able to do programming, or at least it is really useful, even if you're not going deep into that, it is really useful to be able to manipulate and present data on a computer by means of code. And if you're in your last year of your degree and you're faffing about trying to manipulate Excel into giving you what you want, then that's not a good place to be in. Learn to code. Last thing, this is sort of more general advice, but check how your student discount works for family. I said this in the financial advice thing, but you can use your student discount for yourself and that's some help, but of course you're a student, you don't have a lot of money to spend anyway. What's occasionally useful is if you can say to your mum or someone or whoever, look, I know you're looking to buy this, I can get you sort of 10% off if you just sort of, if we go into the shop together, or if you give me a bit of money, I'll go in and buy this, right? And that does help. You're doing a good thing for your family. It's a bit cheesy, but yeah, do it. Save some money. Get some favours. You as a student, you will be relying on this sort of thing. So try and make the most of it. Try and make the most of what you've got by helping out other people you know. But anyway, that's just the things that I wish I'd told myself. Maybe I shouldn't have told myself. Maybe some of them weren't very clever, but oh well. It's the advice that I think would have worked to make my degree a better time. Anyway, thank you for listening. Goodbye.